Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we begin by acknowledging our neighbors, the Watah Mohawks and the First Nations of Moose Deer Point, Shawanaga, Wasauksing, Magnetawan, Henvey Inlet, Nipissing, and Dokeese. Our subject today is the post-pandemic job market. What can we expect? It's clear the last 16 months have changed the economic landscape. Work from home is likely here to stay, which could mean better year-round jobs as companies aren't limited to operating in big cities. We have long thought a barrier to growth locally was the lack of manufacturing, but is the future white collar above the Zoom line and pajama pants below? I am wearing actual clothes below the Zoom line. As small businesses open, they will be looking to hire people for service jobs. Will the workforce meet the challenge? And how will the people in these jobs be able to afford the increasing cost of housing? There are two sides to every coin. Some say we're headed for a world of political and economic instability and greater inequality. Others say post-pandemic, we are going to come together and usher in halcyon days of plenty. And what does it all mean for jobs? Thank you for joining us today. We have experts in the field. I'm hoping that Wade Matthews will kick us off. Hi, Wade. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Pamela, and thank you for the invitation.
Can you introduce yourself and give us your perspective?
For sure. So my name is Wade Matthews. I work for the District of Muskoka, and I work on a number of projects, but one of the projects that I am working on is the Muskoka Employment Partnership, which I can explain a bit more about if people have questions. But today in my presentation, I just want to raise 3 points and then conclude with 2 other points. So my first point is in relation to in-demand occupations right now. So this is what I'm hearing from employers about the kinds of people they require. So in terms of healthcare, we're talking about PSWs, we're talking about nurse aides, and we're talking about nurses. And this is a shortage across Ontario. So Muskoka faces a great challenge in hiring for those kinds of jobs because the competition is so high right now. Second is construction. So we're seeing employers in the construction industry calling out for skilled trades and also for trades helpers and labourers. Landscape gardeners, that's another area where employers are coming up short in terms of their ability to recruit. And the third area is retail and tourism. And there we're looking at primarily entry-level jobs. So my second point is areas of growth, potential growth after COVID-19, should it ever end, and hopefully it will. First, nurses. Nurses are the #1 in-demand occupation in Canada, not just in Ontario, not just in Muskoka, it's Canada-wide. Why? Because we have a lot of nurses aged between 50 and 65 who are going to be retiring in the next 15 years, and we don't have the capacity to replace them. Second, early childhood educator. You might note that the federal government announced changes to the early childhood sector in terms of increased funding. So in Muskoka, we're going to see growth in that employment for early childhood educator. Also, HR, marketing, and communications professionals for obvious reasons. But these were already growing prior to 2020 in Muskoka. And I expect the demand will only increase because of some of the issues that Pamela raised in her introduction once COVID-19 is finished. And just lastly, skilled trades. Electrician, plumber, HVAC, these are skilled trades that are in demand right now in Muskoka, and I foresee, given the amount of housing that is going to be produced in the next 5 years in Muskoka, that these trades or the competition for these trades will only increase. My third point is around digital skills and remote work. Here, I'm not willing to predict the future. In the short term, I believe that remote work is here to stay, but I don't know whether that will translate in the future into more of us working from home. We'll wait and see what policies, particularly municipalities right now, they're developing policies around remote work, and so we'll wait to see what happens in that space. But what I will say is that digital skills will become absolutely imperative going forward for anybody in just about any occupation. So we need to make sure that we're providing the right kinds of digital skills to our young people. and also to those who are already in employment and who are looking to move to different positions. And this could be one way that we overcome the housing shortage in Muskoka. Is that good for people living in Muskoka? That's an open question. Are Muskoka employers now going to start recruiting from Toronto? Are they going to start recruiting from other provinces? Are they going to start recruiting outside of Canada? And that's a general question which is facing Canadian employers right now. So they're my 3 points, and I just would conclude with 2 things. First, the job market in Muskoka is going to change less than we think. So we have seen prior to COVID, construction, skilled trades, healthcare, and also entry-level jobs in tourism being key demand drivers. I think those key demand drivers are going to be in existence after COVID too. And so my last point would be, and this is a point that I don't like to talk about a lot, but there is, because of COVID, risk of automation in 2 industries. One, retail trade, second is in manufacturing. There could be potentially, Ontario-wide here I'm talking about, potential contractions in demand for those positions because of automation. And that's where I'll leave my presentation, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Wade. I always learn so much when I listen to you. We also have from our Almaguin area, Erin Murphy from Employment North. Erin, can you fill us in about the Almaguin situation?
Yes, thank you so much, Pamela, for having us here today and providing us with the opportunity to discuss the local labor market. So my name is Erin, and I'm the job developer for Employment North in Sunridge. So just to give you guys a bit of a brief overview of what Employment North is. So we have offices in Sunridge and Gravenhurst, and we are service providers with the Employment Ontario Network and work in collaboration with community partners, employers, and other key stakeholders in both Almaguin and Muskoka. So we basically specialize in connecting job seekers with employers, assisting clients with their employment journey, which includes assisting clients with their job search, providing training through workshops, and providing training supports for clients when they need it. So in terms of kind of what's going on here, I kind of find that some of the top industries that are hiring right now are in construction, retail trade, healthcare, and social assistance, which isn't too surprising considering kind of the pandemic, manufacturing, and we're kind of starting to see the accommodation food services going up again as we're starting to kind of reopen more. I found kind of Parry Sound District as a whole was able to rebound a bit quicker than maybe what we would have expected to see. There was kind of a drop in job postings kind of in the early spring of 2020, but I found kind of by the end of 2020 and kind of beginning of 2021, we're kind of starting to see it's kind of identical to the trends that were happening 3-4 years ago. So I think that's kind of a good sign for us. It's hard to kind of predict what's going to happen kind of further on, and I think as we get more statistics, we're going to kind of be able to see what's going on there. But I think kind of for the most part, kind of over 50% I found of full-time jobs are still there over the part-time, and they are kind of permanent, which is really good for the Almaguin area. And yeah, again, thank you so much, Pamela, for having us here, and looking forward to kind of discussing more.
Thank you, Erin. And from Parry Sound, we have Lisa Cook. Hi, Lisa.
Hi there. Again, thank you for having us today. This is a fantastic conversation. And Wade, I really appreciated your presentation. Speaking to the trends, because the pandemic, there's no question, has really shifted things. And it's going to be interesting to see down the road how things go. So to introduce YWCA Employment and Learning Services, we offer Employment Ontario programming very much like Erin just described. So we are basically a sister, I would say, to Employment North in terms of offering very similar services. Our locations are in Parry Sound, Huntsville, and Midland, and a few of my colleagues are here today, some with cameras on and some not. And I agree completely with the in-demand jobs. We're seeing the same thing. We are, no question, seeing more jobs open than job seekers right now, and it's a huge issue for local employers. And I would completely agree with the three key areas that Wade zoned in on, which are healthcare, construction, and retail tourism. It's exactly what we're seeing here. If you're a high school student right now, this is a fantastic year to get a job and to be guaranteed you're going to get something, because those types of seasonal jobs are in very high demand right now, especially as the province is opening back up again. Also really interesting in terms of the digital skills comment as well, and that need for continuing to upgrade those skills. We are seeing that demand increasing as well. So we also offer learning services, and digital training is part of that, and we've definitely been seeing an increase in that area. Another impact we're seeing is a migration north. So we've been seeing a lot of individuals who would have been seasonal in the past going, this is fantastic, now I can work up north because I can work remotely. And that's been an interesting dynamic as well. So we have the housing crunch, but we do have many who are seasonal choosing to move full-time into their cottages. And we really saw that impact the construction trade as well. In last year, we have a program called Canada Ontario Job Grant, which offers employers the opportunity to have funded training. And we saw huge demand, and I ended up signing off on more training for that industry than I ever have in previous years since that program started. And it was that demand from local construction businesses needing more people and needing to upgrade skills for drivers in particular to be able to meet that demand. We're seeing with that whole piece of the road relocation, the other impact is people getting here and then of course being caught with the internet problem, which we have with rural internet. So that has been an impact as well. So back to Wade's comments about, could people be losing jobs to people from Toronto? I think there's a reverse possibility as well. We could have people here that have the opportunity now to work for larger organizations. They could increase their skills, have a digital job, a marketing job, and be able to work remotely from this area as long as they have the ability to get access to internet and housing. So it is a really interesting time right now. And with our service, I would say one of the other significant pieces to this is we're seeing more job changers or career changers. So it used to be we'd have people coming in saying, I need a job. So let's get to the practicality of I need a job. But now we're getting more people saying, you know what, I've actually found some positives to this situation in the last year, and it's making me reevaluate things. Or people who were laid off, having that time to take a step back and think about what they want to do next. And that's been a really interesting refocus that we've seen out of our centers.
We have been hearing a lot about this predicted mass exodus from people's jobs, that folks are going to want to switch everything up. So we'll see what happens. A lot to talk about here. I see that Bob Stone has joined us. Bob is a Huntsville counselor. Not to put you on the spot, Bob, did you have any questions or comments at this time for any of our guests?
Well, I'm eager to be here to learn more about how we can help the situation, because it is very serious. So I'd just like to mention housing. Housing is desperately needed, and the rental rates are through the roof. Luckily here in Huntsville, we have several hundred units that are going to be coming online. A lot of them will be rentals, which is excellent, and hopefully supply will drive the prices down a little bit. But obviously right now we're all seeing huge demand for labor, especially in the tourist industry, and restaurants, they can't wait to open, and yet they don't have the staff to fully open. It's really a terrible situation. I was talking to one yesterday, and they're calling their friends and asking them, please, can you come and work some shifts in our business? And that's how they're getting employees. Anyway, it's desperate, and I don't know what the solution is in the short term.
Mm-hmm. It's tough times for sure. I was in Huntsville on the weekend and it was packed. Even despite the construction, the road was just packed with people walking back and forth and around in that great area behind near the park. And And to these businesses, they're anxious to be happening. They're anxious to take advantage of this boom, but they don't have the employees. And the other side of that coin is, do you make enough working in tourism in these seasonal jobs to be able to afford the real estate market the way it is now? It's a really tricky situation. Does anybody have any questions for our panel at this time? You could raise your hand, or if you don't feel like saying something, you could put it in the chat. Do let me know. And not seeing any hands raised yet. I think we'll throw the floor back to you, Wade. Wade, what do you know? What is the unemployment rate right now?
So the latest figure I have is for 2020. And so this is the context of obviously an economy that was shut down due to COVID. And in Muskoka, it was 12.1% for 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I would presume that figure endured through the early part of 2021, just simply because we once again went into lockdown.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that 12%, that's a high number. Are they looking for the jobs that employers are wanting to hire? When you see, whoever wants to answer this question, when you see folks coming to you for jobs, for help and for advice, do they have the skills that the employers want, and do they want the jobs that the employers are offering?
Hi, it's Donna.
What?
Sorry, wait, go ahead. I just Googled, so there's my technicality. I Googled the unemployment rate currently, and it's 9.1% in Ontario. Traditionally, the unemployment rate for youth is 3 to 5% higher than the rate for overall unemployment. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And sorry, Pam, I lost your question, and I know it was important, and I wanted to say something about that as well.
Well, two pieces. One, are people coming looking for jobs? Are they looking for the jobs that are being posted? Do they have the training for those jobs?
So many of the people that we've been meeting over the last month or so, when things have started to pick up again, the short answer is possibly. You need to look at the overall ability of the client and some of the challenges that people are faced with, right? So if they don't have a driver's license, then they have to consider the labor market that they're in. If they have to walk or ride a bike to work, then they need to be living close to where they work. They don't have the luxury of looking in a larger community like Huntsville, Bracebridge, Gravenhurst, those types of things. Fortunately, in South River and Sunbridge, we have several different businesses that are manufacturing, and people can get to those fairly easily. But we can help people look at their ability to travel in terms of getting to work and all that. There's always some kind of solution out there, and there are transportation projects that are being undertaken currently that people can access to. So,
transportation always comes up as an issue whenever we're talking about anything in our region. Transportation comes up.
Absolutely. But the housing situation that Bob talked about is also very prevalent. And I don't know that job seekers and employers, they're not always perfectly aligned, you know, the skills and things. And some of it is just the ability to access the training. I believe it was Lisa that talked about unreliable internet and things like that for people. So that's where the employment service providers, such as the YWCA or Employment North or Angelic, where we can support people in their job search and help them do their health and safety training online and other short-term courses that they might need prior to landing a job. We really work with the employer also to accommodate some of the challenges that a job seeker might have in terms of helping with the transportation issue, right? They may have people in another town that travel to that business currently, and so they can hook them up to ride together. There's little things that we can do to try and create synergy and help people become more employable than it might look in the initial matching process.
You make an interesting point about internet. Our rural connectivity and lack of rural connectivity has been problematic in the past, but if we're looking as regions to capitalize on that workforce, on bringing folks here who can work elsewhere, that problem really needs to be solved. Wade?
So just an update, a very quick update. The District of Muskoka has just recently awarded 2 consultants from Ontario to undertake a study about a regional broadband initiative. So this would be about how we can best get reliable and affordable broadband to everyone who lives in Muskoka. So we'll have hopefully we'll have an action plan and an implementation plan that comes out of that review. Very confident about the consultants that we've hired, have lots of experience in our kinds of communities and in Ontario. So I'm really positive, and I've worked with them over the last week, and we've talked to each of the EDOs in each of the different towns and townships in Muskoka, and they've been able to provide the kinds of information that they need to get to us a strategy and then an implementation plan. So watch this space. There's exciting things happening in terms of broadband, at least in Muskoka.
Okay, that's good to know, Wade. We do have a question here. In other areas, there are reports that wages are increasing to attract workers. Is that happening here? It's got to be tricky for our folks in tourism because the profit margin is so low to offer more wages and still make a profit. I know for restaurants, you're lucky if you're making a 5% profit. I'm not sure about retail, but that's, I think, going to be tricky. Can anybody speak to that? Are wages going up in our areas?
Hi, I would like to answer that.
Hi,
my name is Sarah, and I work from the Y in Parry Sound. I would say that this is definitely the case in the trades, in particular construction. We're seeing employers who have, like you said, a little bit more flexibility in terms of profit margins to be able to increase the wages, particularly with some unskilled workers as well, because they're a critical part of the job site. And then anyone with a ticket, a license, or certificate, we're also seeing that they're getting an increase of wages because there is competition even in between employers at this point, looking for qualified staff. So.
That's interesting, Sarah. It underlines that divide that we've seen for the longest time between the trades and tourism. And traditionally, maybe not now, but we saw more men going into the trades and women doing the service jobs, which has increased that whole economic divide there, that disparity in terms of economic security between men and women in our region. I did see, I think, the Georgian College is again offering their program, which gives some free trade training. And I know that the high schools really do narrow in on that being, if you want to stay here, trade is the way to go for economic stability. Okay, we have almost 20 minutes left. Are there not seeing questions? I don't see questions. I should go to the phones. Folks on the phones, I'm going to unmute you. Um, 9675, did you have a question for us or a comment for our panel? Okay. What about the person at number 0781 attempting to unmute you? There we go. Do you have a question or a comment for the panel? Okay, I just like to make sure we do the telephone because of the connectivity problem. We want to make sure that our folks can attend.
Yes, I appreciate being able to be here and hearing what everybody has said. It's very interesting. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for joining us. Bob, you had a comment.
Well, I would just like to explore something and get the thoughts of people that are here about why people are choosing to up and leave their jobs. Obviously, they're looking for more satisfaction. Perhaps the pandemic has allowed people to reevaluate what's important and say, you know what, I don't need 3 cars. I'm happy to live with my bicycle or whatever it is. I would just like to explore why people are choosing not to, you know, be in that rat race. And is that what we're looking at?
Any of our experts have a response for that?
I don't know that I have the actual response, but I think that people are recognizing quality of life issues, that they're willing to do without some of the money if they can have a beautiful view and space to go outside. If you're living in an apartment in downtown Toronto with children, I can't imagine the last 16 to 18 months. And just being able to enjoy a slower pace.
Mm-hmm. Sarah?
I would agree with Donna. I think we've seen some people who were previously job searching prior to the pandemic remove themselves from the labor market entirely. And I would say largely those are females, whether it's to take care of older parents or children or whomever. That seems to be something that's on their shoulders, and it's not a temporary solution. So I think what Donna said is bang on about just quality of life for families. And of course, mental health, mental illness, depression, anxiety are on the rise prior to and as a result of the pandemic, and that all is a factor in determining job readiness.
Maybe folks are saying, I'm not able to balance all of this. Maybe I'm not able to balance the caregiving with the working, or I'm not able to, I don't have the equanimity to go through and do a job of this level, so I'm going to do something different. I think it's also curiosity. I think folks are really, really keen for change. Myself.
I think so too, and the demands, as Sarah said, for the sandwich generation, they're caregiving their children, they're caregiving their parents. Something has to give, right? And that's where a lot of, particularly for women, but also for men in some cases, and the lack of childcare over the pandemic as well, right? Someone had to stay home. In many cases, it was the dad, but you can't say that it's one thing that affects the whole labor market. It's a culmination of all of the aspects that come into play.
Mm-hmm. Bob?
So I'm just trying to think about solutions for businesses that are struggling to find employees, and they're desperate and they want people to come to work full time. But maybe the solution is to have job sharing. People would be eager to work a day and a half or 3 days, but they don't want that full-time job. And that might be the solution to everybody's problem. It's difficult, but
it's challenging for employers. Sorry, Lisa. It's challenging for employers to embrace all of that. And also, we call it job carving, right? And that's where working with both the employer and the employee come into play, and trying to negotiate some of that and saying, it's okay that you can only give 3 hours, a week. We'll work with that, and we'll happily take you for those 3 or 4 hours that people can give, or as you indicated, the 1 or 1.5 days a week.
Lisa?
Yeah, I was just going to add, the trend we're talking about here is work-life balance, and that's become more and more of a requirement for people. We have a younger generation that's come in, and they're basically demanding that now. That's what they've been looking for before the pandemic. And now we've got everyone pretty much evaluating this. And many employers now are being evaluated for what they can bring to the table in terms of offering that flexibility. So if you are an organization or a business that can offer flexibility, so whether it's having maybe 2 part-time employees, that's, Bob, that's a great solution. 2 part-time employees versus having 1 full-time employee, where you're putting that demand on people, that might be a great way to work around it. The other piece of it, again, is this work, and again, it depends on obviously the type of work you're looking at, but the work from home thing, we're seeing more and more of that as well, where people want to see that continued flexibility. That's a whole other area. The whole remote work, many organizations historically resisted that because there was this aspect of trust, and are my employees going to get their job done? Are they going to be able to complete everything? And one of the things the pandemic has proven with the forced remote work situation is that many organizations are now going, yeah, you know what? We have evidence that our staff are productive this way. So you're going to see
in some cases more so, right? More
yes, exactly. So I think we're going to start seeing more of those hybrid opportunities as well, where that's another form of flexibility. So back to Bob's example with, maybe it's 2 part-timers. The other possibility is if you can split the difference with someone in terms of, certain days if I can be home to do my work, and then other days I can come in, especially if there's a long distance, because we do have not only a transportation issue, but it's distance. So for many people, I have to drive an hour to get into town. That's a long drive for me to get into work. And if we're able to, meet that demand for people, I think you're going to see a much more robust workforce as well.
Mm-hmm. Wade, you wanted to comment?
Just to track back to an earlier point that Councillor Stone made, and then to perhaps answer Brent in the chat. So as everyone knows here, we have a large number of small business in Muskoka who employ staff of 5 and under, for example. So a key question here is, how do we give them the support to put in place the kinds of policies that they may need to have around mental health, around a whole range of aspects of HR? How can we give them the support so that they can create the kinds of jobs that people want to do? And we know with small business people, they're very passionate, but they often have a very clear focus in terms of what they actually do, their core business. Larger employers, we have the luxury of HR departments, we have the luxury of policy development around mental health, a whole range of aspects. So a key question in Muskoka is, how do we get that support to those small business owners so that we can help them not just recruit the staff that they need, but also to retain the staff that they have. And I think that's the $64,000 question of workforce development in communities like ours. We need to get that support to small business, and how do we do that?
Good point. So Brent said, in Huntsville, what I am hearing from employers is that they're willing to give people an opportunity even without the skills that are required for the position, and also pay more to attract job seekers. They're just not having people apply for the positions. And then we have a question about, is there a connection with federal support in the workforce? Can anybody speak to that? Are we seeing dollars flowing into these kinds of problems? We don't have a federal representative here, so we can't talk to that, but I'm sure that the connectivity issue that Wade was talking about, those dollars must have come from some level of government to do those studies.
Pam is Brent in Huntsville. And the other pieces that I'm hearing from employers as well, and it's a bit of that finger pointing, is with people who are collecting the benefit right now, the CRB benefit through the government. It seems like the finger pointing from employers is coming to say they're not coming back to work because they're earning such dollars, and they won't come back for a minimum wage job because I think they're earning maybe around the $17 mark with this benefit right now. So I think employers are feeling that they could offer more money, but they have to, it's a very fine line, especially around pay equity. But I think a lot of employers would wish to see the CRB go and get people back to the labor market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do we know what's happening with that? Is that benefit going to continue as we open up? Does anyone know?
not exactly sure what the cutoff date is. I believe it's in September.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that they were cutting it back, and Sarah's kind of nodding a bit. Are they cutting it back by half, I believe, for certain individuals? Sarah, I think it was in July. So, but
Yes, there was
still
a reduction this month. I'm not exactly sure how much, but it was reduced this month.
So I think it went from $600 a week, maybe down to $300 a week, but not for every single individual.
Even at $600 a week, $6, $12, $2,400, $300 a week, you're not able to house yourself, certainly for that. Ashley commented in the chat for people who'll be watching the video later. Job stability and anxieties have been a large trend of what I've seen as a coach, causing people to reevaluate their career choices. Okay, excellent point. We're about 10 minutes out. I wanted to give each of our speakers 3 minutes to wind up. Wade, can we begin with you?
Sure. So I think there's sort of 3 key takeaways from today. The first one is that employers need staff in those sectors that we highlighted. And in those sectors too are likely to see job growth after COVID-19. In terms of providing people with the skills that they need in terms of filling some of those positions, that's obviously a direction that we need to take in workforce development generally in Muskoka. So we need to make sure that there's a connection between the skills that employers need and the kinds of skills that we're providing training for. And that's obviously a key piece of workforce development. And then the last point, I would just point to the opportunities that may exist right now for people to get training who are actually in employment around digital skills.
Thank you, Wade. Erin?
Thank you, Pamela. I think kind of as our region kind of continues to adjust to the various kind of stages of reopening, we just have to kind of really harp on one of our goals is to really provide individuals with the training and skills needed to meet the demands of the post-pandemic economy, and just really kind of help people kind of get back to work, or help people find that maybe second career that they're looking for to kind of get into.
It's such an important piece. I mean, our economy doesn't work unless this piece works, right? Lisa, do you have a wind up for us?
I think it's really been said. I think, Wade, you had a really good summary there. And the only thing I would add is that, again, just to emphasize, skills development is an opportunity, it's available. So for anyone who's interested in upgrading their skills, there are all sorts of programs available. And depending on where you're located, you can see we're well represented here in terms of Employment Ontario sites. There's lots of funding available for employers to help their existing employees to upgrade their skills to get what they need. Or the other opportunity is, for example, second career, which Erin just mentioned. So second career is another opportunity for individuals who are looking to upgrade their own skills as well. The best thing to do is to reach out to us and take us through their situation, and then we can certainly work with them. But my crystal ball says that the government is going to continue to help with support for that. They are absolutely emphasizing and recognizing that need for skills upgrading, and they're going to continue to provide that financial support for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Lisa. That is good stuff to know, and it's probably an important piece for us to follow up on, so that we're letting the community know where the funding is available. A 9%, even if it's gone from 12 to 9% unemployment rate, it means that a lot of folks are going to have an increasingly difficult time surviving. Certainly paying their rent as this continues to climb. Okay, does anyone else have a last comment that they would like to fit in under the wire? Failing that, okay. Thank you everyone for joining us for this town hall. Next week, we are going to discuss diversity in local politics. We have a number of speakers who are coming to explore that issue, and I hope to see you there Thursday at noon. Have a great day.